You could buy 3 of these for the price of 1 of these. Hey everyone, welcome back. My name is Carmel, and in today's video we are going to be talking about something that I know is affecting the majority of people. We are paying higher and higher prices for things, but we are getting less and less for our money, and makeup is no exception. It seems like these days we are paying an absolute fortune for tiny amounts of products, and there's definitely been some products lately where I have really been questioning, what are we doing? Why are we paying this amount of money when we're barely getting anything in return? So today we're just going to be opening up that conversation and putting on some makeup at the same time. So if that sounds like something that you might be interested in, then please do keep on watching. Before we get started, this is not about me producing a commentary video. That's the first thing. I am definitely not moving into commentary. And the second thing is, I'm not here to slate any of the brands that we're going to talk about today or specific products. It's literally us having a conversation about whether we think these products are actually worth it. But I've chosen some specific examples to kind of demo the points that I'm making. So one of my favorite color correctors is this one from Morphe. This is the Wakeup Artist Under Eye Correcting Concealer. I have this in the shade 02 Peach. I absolutely love this product, and it's definitely a product that I use absolutely regularly on this channel. This product costs about €14, but for that you get 3.8 mil of product, which is absolutely tiny. Now, I don't really massively personally have an issue with this color corrector being so incredibly tiny, and I'm going to tell you why. I don't, because I don't use a lot of it. So I use a little dab here and there. So if you compare it to some higher end concealers and correctors, so this one from Huda Beauty, this is €31, but you get 9 mil of product. So if you compare them per mil, the Huda Beauty actually works out cheaper per mil. And I know we see that all the time at the drugstore and luxury, but I think it's really important to point out that I think there's this real common misconception that the drugstore always gives us less for our money, and it's actually not true at all. So if you take this, for example, which is the NYX Bear With Me Serum Concealer, this is definitely incredible value for money. So this is 9.6 mil of product, and it costs around 13 to 14 euros. But you know, it's not always about whether we are getting a lot of product. We need to weigh up whether these products are actually good. And this is one of the best concealers you can get, whether it's high end or whether it's at the drugstore. This NYX concealer is absolutely ridiculously good. This is in the shade Beige, by the way. I'm not going to be showing you swatches and things like that, because today is all about just a conversation about these products. None of these products are new to my channel. I have literally used them all. So yeah, I think we just need to weigh up whether things are actually going to last us, whether they are a decent amount of product, and whether actually having a smaller amount is okay in some circumstances. So for example, I know that I don't need really 9 mil of a color corrector because it's going to expire before I get to use it all. I guess it really does depend on your personal situation. However, when it comes to concealer, I really feel like we should be getting a lot for our money. So I pulled out a couple of other concealers. So this one from Laura Mercier, this only contains 5.4 mil and it's €32. And here's the thing with this concealer, the Real Flawless Weightless Perfecting Concealer. I think it's absolutely gorgeous, but you need a lot of it if you want any coverage because it's so light. So that's another thing that you need to take into consideration. How much of the product do I actually need to use to get a decent level of coverage? The RMS concealer is only 5 mil of product, and it will cost you about €40 for 5 mil. But then there are other brands who are at the luxury end. So for example, Lancome with their concealer, you get 13 mil of product, and Estee Lauder with the Double Wear concealer, you get 12 mil of product. So absolutely huge amounts. So when it comes to foundations, I think that generally we do get the standard 30 ml of product, 1 fluid ounce in our liquid foundations. However, there are definitely some exceptions to the rule. So I had a look at some of my Hourglass products, and I have two here, two kind of tints, and they actually give you 35 ml. And I think a reason for that is that obviously you do tend to use a little bit more of tints depending on your preference, but also Milk Makeup. I don't really like this product, but it still gives you 35 ml. This one from NARS is a little bit more expensive. This is the Tinted Moisturiser, but this you get 50 ml of product. So I feel like you're really getting your money's worth, but it also happens at the drugstore. So I was looking at my Maybelline Lumimatte. This actually gives you 35 ml of product, and I'm not sure if people are aware of this. People think that the drugstore always take away product, but there are instances where they do actually give you more. Today, we're not going to be talking about liquid foundations because generally you do get your 30 ml of product. We're going to be talking about balms because I feel like we are in our complexion balm era. Now, I have tested a lot of balms recently. So this one here is the new It Cosmetics balm, and this gives you 18 grams of product, which is a really healthy amount. However, there have been ones that have been coming out from the drugstore. One that I am really loving is this one from L'Oreal. This is the new True Match Tinted Hyaluron Balm. Now, you only get 8 grams of product in here, which is 10 grams less than this, and it costs you up to 25 euros. So per gram, the L'Oreal from the drugstore is definitely costing you more. However, there is one balm that has really caused me a little bit of stress recently, and it's this one from Laura Mercier. So this is her new complexion balm. I haven't had it long at all, a few weeks, and look, and the reason that you can see so much pan here is because there is only 5 grams of product in here. So what I want to do is pop this on and talk about whether it is actually okay for us to have such a small amount in a complexion product like this. I have this in the shade 02, by the way. So I've had a lot of discussions with people over this complexion balm, and the one thing I'll tell you is that I absolutely adore this product. I think it's magnificent on the skin. It's definitely a product that I would love to have in my constant rotation. So yeah, it gives quite a light coverage. I'm not a light coverage kind of girl, first of all. And I definitely need a little bit more coverage, really, than what this initially gives. So I had discussions in the comments with people. Some people said that they've been using it for weeks and they are nowhere near hitting pan. And obviously they're using a lot less than me. And some people are using their fingers to apply. Now, I've gone in a few times on this balm already just now, and you can see that I'm getting barely any coverage at all. So I think it depends on how you see this balm. So if you see it as something that is barely on your skin, literally barely visible, well, you'll see it when I put it on my forehead around my hyperpigmentation there. If you are not bothered about coverage, okay, if you just want something that is, I mean, I say evening out, it's okay. I mean, it doesn't look like I've got any makeup on, and that's not my vibe. So I guess this balm isn't really aimed at me. This is aimed at somebody who wants barely anything on their skin. But still, even if you do not want a lot of coverage, even if this balm will last you a good while, even before you hit pan, it's extremely expensive. So per gram, €8.40 per gram. I mean, what is happening here? I do think it's a very fairly dry product, and I think that's one of the reasons why people are using so much of it. Because it's such light coverage, we really should be getting more product. It's not good enough. And I think if you were to compare it to this, the new L'Oreal balm, which is definitely my favorite balm out of all of these, I don't use as much of that balm because it gives me more coverage. I could never sit here and tell you that this balm is worth it. Whereas with the L'Oreal, I do think it is. Yes, you only get 3 grams extra. However, It's almost half the price of the Laura Mercier, and I actually prefer the finish of it. So in my world, this is worth it. Whereas this, although it's absolutely beautiful, it's not worth the money. And what I have been doing is using this L'Oreal Balm in conjunction with the Laura Mercier just to get myself a little bit more coverage, using the Laura Mercier for like a little bit of blurring, but that is extremely expensive. I mean, who can even be doing that? So I'm a really big fan of cream bronzers, and I have a lot of stick bronzers and I have a lot of pot cream bronzers. And I was taking a look through my drawer yesterday, and a couple of products really stood out to me. So the first one is this one from Milani. This is the Milani Cheek Kiss cream bronzer. I have it in the shade Hey Honey. I love this. I think it's an absolutely beautiful formula. Honestly feels like luxury. But it cost me €20 and I only get 6 grams of product. Now, when I compare this to some of its drugstore counterparts, this one from number 7, this is the Pro Artist Soft Glow Bronzer. This cream bronzer, you get 36 grams of product. So the price is around €25. However, if you are in the UK or Ireland, you can always get 3 for 2 on number 7. They always have it so heavily discounted. You are literally getting 6 times more product with the number 7 than you are with the Milani. And this is an absolutely phenomenal product. And you know what? If you look at higher end bronzers, so let's take this one from Chanel. This obviously is pricey, okay? And this one from Charlotte Tilbury, also pricey. But you're getting a lot of product. So you're getting 30 grams with the Chanel and you're getting 21 grams with the Charlotte Tilbury. And the one thing I like about the Milani, I actually like the formula so much. And I feel like I don't really need a lot of it because it's really, really pigmented. And I guess because of the fact that I have this channel, I don't really make my way through bronzers a whole lot. However, if I didn't have this channel and I just wanted value from a cream bronzer, I probably would not choose this. I would probably choose the number 7 simply because it just gives you such a similar finish and you are getting so much product. But for me, I like how the Milani looks. I like how it applies. I like that it's really compact. So I think that's one thing to take into consideration. For some people, this is not going to be, it's not going to be feasible when they are traveling a lot. You know, they might not have room in their drawers. This is very, very bulky. So that is a true reason why some people, they just don't feel like purchasing bigger, bulkier items. Some people actually prefer to buy smaller items. And let's be honest, how many people are really going to make their way through 36 grams of bronzer before it expires? You've just got to weigh that up for yourself and how much you actually use of these products. You'll have to let me know your thoughts on that actually. Do you prefer to have smaller sized items in your collection? That'd be really interesting to hear about. When it comes to bronzers as well, I did want to mention one of my favorites. So this is the Makeup by Mario Skin Enhancer, and this is my ultimate favorite bronzer. However, you get a teeny weeny amount of product in here, 5 grams. Now for me, that's fine because I'm someone that has a lot of bronzers, so I kind of rotate. However, I've read that some people have been through like 5 of these. Well, is it any wonder, really, when you're only getting 5 grams of product? So yeah, I really, we've really got to think about whether we are actually going to use these products, whether they're going to be sat in a drawer, or whether, honestly, these brands they are taking our money and they are not giving us a whole lot. Now, blush is a funny one. I was actually looking at some of my liquid blushes, and liquid blushes is where you really see whether you are getting value or not. So I was taking a look at, I have all of these e.l.f. liquid blushes, the camo liquid blushes, but it always amazes me how little product you get in here. You only get 4 mil of product, and I think they're around €10 now. Not a lot. However, some people will say, well, they're really pigmented, so you don't need a lot of it. And I would agree with that. However, if you take, for example, the Rare Beauty blushes, these are absolutely insane. And they are, in my opinion, far superior to the e.l.f. These cost about €25, but for that, you get 7.5 mil. So although the Rare Beauty is still technically more expensive, it is not by a lot. And this is obviously going to last you a lot longer. It's just as, if not even more pigmented than the e.l.f. And for me, it just looks a lot better on the skin. But then if you look at a brand like Armani liquid blushes are giving you 12 mil of product. That is a serious amount of product, and it is absolutely flawless as well. But I actually wanted to compare some luxury blushes. So I spoke about this one recently. This is the Lisa Eldridge Velatura Balm. This is a cheek and a lip product. Now, this is €33. You get 4.8 grams. And I did moan about this. It's the packaging that gets me. It doesn't look luxury at all, and it is a luxury item. However, if you compare it with something like this is from Charlotte Tilbury. This is the Unreal Blush Healthy Glow Sticks. This is one of my absolute favourite blushes. Charlotte Tilbury costs around the same price, so it's €36, but you get 9 grams of product, and it's so much more pigmented than what the Lisa Eldridge is. So I think we'll go in with this today. This is in the shade Rosy Glow. I have found that with a few Lisa Eldridge products that you don't really get a whole lot, and it's the same with Makeup by Mario. You know, you are lacking in the volume of product you are getting. Now, although Charlotte Tilbury prices can be that little bit higher, I genuinely think that some of her products are very top tier, and this is one of them. This is one of the best cream blushes that you can find at either high-end or at the drugstore. And I love the packaging, and I think when you are buying luxury products, part of the experience is paying for packaging. That is what anybody who will solely buy luxury makeup, that is what they will tell you. I buy it for the whole experience. I want the luxury packaging. Well, I'm afraid we're not really getting it here. And again, this is not me slating Lisa Eldridge. I love so many of her products, and this is a really beautiful, gorgeous product. It really, really is. However, are we really getting our money's worth? You're not getting a lot of product, you're not getting fancy packaging, but you're still paying a high price. Whereas with this, yes, you're still paying a higher price, but you are getting a lot of product and you are getting the fancy packaging as well. So I think we just need to weigh up, not just between high-end and the drugstore, but between high-end and high-end and drugstore and drugstore. So I am a massive fan of 100 eyeshadows, and there was one 100 eyeshadow that was really problematic to me in relation to how much or how little you get. So these are the Makeup by Mario Master Mattes. These are the liquid, well, they're cream eyeshadows. You only get 2 mil of product in here, and these will set you back about €28, okay? 2 mil. Not going to last you long at all. But if you compare it to something like these, the Armani eye tints, which are some of my all-time favourite products for the eyes, these are 3.9 mil, so you're talking almost 4 mil, and these are €30. So much better value, double the amount that you are getting in the Mario. So these work out much cheaper, and in my opinion, they are a better formula. But that's just my opinion, doesn't mean it's correct. But even better value would be these from MAC. These are the new multi-sculpt liquid products. This can be used on the eyes, but it can also be used on the face to contour and shape the face. So there's 4.5 mil in here and will cost you €25. So this is definitely the best value of them all. I will show you the Mario because I know that these are very, very popular. This is in the shade Mauve, and yeah, I mean, it's a really nice product and it's very budge proof. I can see why people love it and repurchase it. But if you are wearing this on an absolute daily basis, I mean, you're going to have to replace pretty soon. For me, these are really nice, but I think it is always worth looking at products like this, liquid eyeshadows, to see how much are you getting for what you are paying. I just think there are absolute better options out there that will last you a lot longer. The only category that I don't really have an issue with is mascara, because mascaras are not designed to last. They do not last long at all. So I'm not going to talk about any mascaras. I'm just going to go and throw one on and then I'll be back. I think there's one category where people always talk about value for money, and it's definitely powder. So there are a couple of powders that I wanted to talk about today and chat about whether we actually think they are worth it. So the first one is this one from L'Oreal, the L'Oreal Blurfection powder. Now you cannot get this in Europe. I managed to get it from the US. So this retails for $16. You only get 6 grams of product in here, which is teeny weeny. And this one from NYX, this is the Wonder Snatch powder. This is a little bit cheaper. So this cost me, I think it was €12, and you also only get 6 grams of products. But we're going to focus on this L'Oreal today. Now, here's the thing. I think this is beautiful. I think it's premium. I think it feels like a luxury powder. However, when you compare it to the luxury higher end counterparts, so for example, if you compare it to the Huda Beauty Easy Bake or the Makeup by Mario Loose powder, this is still more expensive per gram than these two. And although I think this is absolutely premium, I think it's beautiful, I feel like these do still outperform the L'Oreal Blurfection. And I think powder is one of those products that does last a little bit longer than your creams and your liquids. Although they will still have an expiry date on, it's always worth buying powder that comes with more product, because it is going to last you quite a long time. And also you can get even better value at the drugstore. So this is from the drugstore. Again, it's number 7. This is their loose powder. You get 27 grams in here. So you're talking around €20, but 27 grams. And it's a beautiful powder. There's another drugstore alternative, which is the Wet n Wild loose pink setting powder. That's got 20 grams. So the drugstore is giving us some really good options. So yeah, I really do think this boils down to personal preference. And just to be completely honest with you, well, I'm going to go in with the L'Oreal Infallible today. I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not a powder person at all. So for me personally, buying a smaller powder, it makes sense. I'm not going to use it all. I don't use it on a daily basis. I like the small packaging. You know, this for me is bulky and clumpy, whereas this is very neat. It's tidy. It fits in my drawer. And so I don't have a massive issue with this powder for me personally. However, when it comes to my recommendations and whether I think it is worth it, I have to say that I would struggle to say that this powder is the best of the best, because I really don't think you are getting a huge amount of value, but it just really does depend on your preference. When it comes to lip products, I never really think to check how much product we are getting in our lipsticks. However, when I was looking through my drawers, I stumbled across this product that I really did love. This is from NARS. So this is the Afterglow Sensual Shine lipstick, okay? And this was great. I finished it literally in no time. There's just the little bits that are left in the tube. Although I do go through some lip products pretty quickly, this one took me really no time at all. 1.5 grams. That is tiny. For an average for a lipstick, you're probably talking around 3 grams. That's a good average. 1.5, that is less than acceptable, isn't it? And especially for a balmy type product like this that needs to be reapplied. And that was really shocking to me. And you know what the other shocking thing is? And this is something to bear in mind with all of your makeup products. This packaging makes you think that you're getting a lot, doesn't it? It's extremely deceiving. So it's got this elongated tube. When you look at this, you are thinking that you are getting a decent amount of product, but 1.5 grams. So for me, I would never repurchase that. If I was to give anybody advice, I would say to them, why are you going to buy this? There is an almost identical product at the drugstore, and this is the L'Oreal Glass Shine Balms. These are literally identical, but you get a heck of a lot more product. So you get 3.5 grams in here, and it is a fraction of the price. You could buy 3 of these for the price of 1 of these. So this is in the shade Honey. Now I did pop a little smidgy bit of lip liner on. This actually, I find way more longer lasting than this. So I just want you to be really aware of your lipsticks. And it's not just packaging that's deceiving us. It's actually the lack of information on packaging. So when I was trying to look for how many grams of products there were in this, the writing is so teeny tiny that it was literally impossible for me to view. And I would say that on a good chunk of the products that I was looking into today, there was no measurement on them at all. I had to go online and seek out how many grams or mils were in that product, which I find completely unacceptable. And I just wanted to show you another example of something that I noticed. So I have quite a lot of these. These are the Dior Hydrating Shine lipsticks. I've got a ton of these. It's my favorite lipstick, okay? I absolutely adore it so much. But I bought a couple of these. These are the newer ones, the glassy lipsticks. So if you were to compare them, they look the exact same, right? No difference in the size of the packaging. So you will probably not question how much you are getting in here to how much you are getting in here. However, when I looked at the amounts, you are getting 3.2 grams of product in the Hydrating Shine lipsticks. And in these newer ones, you are getting 2.7 grams. So a really small amount, and you would never think to question it because it looks like the same component. There doesn't seem to be any significant difference, but you are just getting less product. So I think the primary thing that we can take away from today is that shrinkflation is most definitely a thing, but not just in makeup, it's with every part of our lives. So whether it's the food in the supermarkets, whether it's property, whatever it is, we are definitely paying higher prices, but getting less for our money. Okay, it's not just a makeup thing, it's just the world that we are living in right now. But I think the major things that I'd love you to take away from this video today, and it's stuff that I want to really be aware of as well, is that, well, first of all, just because something has a small amount, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a negative thing. So whereas some people will see this Morphe colour corrector as extreme poor value for money, for me, it's the best colour corrector I've ever had. So I think that it's worth it. However, in the same breath, let's take something like the Laura Mercier Balm. Somebody will use this balm and think it's the most stunning thing they've ever put in their face. They don't have an issue with the low amount of products that they're getting because they just love the product so much. Whereas I truly do not feel like you are getting a lot for your money. I feel like you should be getting a lot more. So it really does boil down to personal preference. One of the most enlightening things for me is that this isn't just a drugstore thing, and people are so quick to say that I don't buy drugstore because it doesn't give me value for money because I always get less products. But I've shown you here, and this is just a few examples, that luxury are just as guilty as the drugstore. And ultimately, this is not about drugstore versus luxury or brands versus brands. This is simply about when you spend your hard-earned money, do you think you are getting value for it? And if you are spending a lot of money, but you really feel good when using that product and you think it's the best thing ever, then that is all that matters. You do not have to explain yourself or your purchases to anybody else. If a product brings you joy, if it makes a difference to you, how you feel, your confidence, the way you look, whatever it might be that you think is valuable, then that's all that matters. That is literally all that matters. So don't feel like you need to explain yourself and your purchases to anybody else. Today, it was just about having an open conversation and just kind of bringing that awareness that, yeah, there are plenty of alternatives out there, and all you need to do is be aware of what's out there and be aware of how much product you're getting, and only you can make that call. So please do let me know all of your thoughts on this video. Were some of these a little bit of a surprise to you? Have we talked about anything today that has made you think a little bit differently? Let me know down in the comments. Thank you so much for joining me for this video. I so appreciate you being here with me. I'm really looking forward to seeing you in the next video, but until then, take care and bye for now.